Tensions are on the rise in the Middle East, with U.S. forces in the region facing growing threats. A Navy warship recently took down missiles that appeared to be headed for Israel. Simultaneously, American bases in Iraq and Syria have been repeatedly targeted by drone attacks. This is a major deal and makes the already tense situation in the Middle East even more serious. The attack on the American base near Israel shows how tough things are getting for U.S. military forces in that part of the world, and it's making people worry about what might happen next. Following the initial incident, an official from the United States government disclosed that in the early hours of Friday morning, a rocket attack targeted U.S. and coalition forces situated at a diplomatic support center near Baghdad International Airport. Preliminary evaluations suggest that 2 rockets were launched during the attack. The U.S. official specified that one of the rockets was successfully intercepted by a counter-rocket system, demonstrating a proactive defense measure, while the second rocket hit an unoccupied storage facility, minimizing potential harm. The official, who preferred to remain anonymous while sharing information not yet officially disclosed, assured that there were no reported casualties as a result of the rocket attack. This update provides a sense of relief amid the concerning developments, indicating that the defensive measures taken in response to the incident were effective in preventing harm to U.S. and coalition forces at the Diplomatic Support Center near Baghdad International Airport. Considering all these events, the big question is, how did Yemen get the resources to attack the U.S. base near Israel, and who are those really behind the attack? They call themselves the Houthi Movement. The Houthi Movement, also known as Ansar Allah, is a political and military organization that came about in the 1990s in Yemen, specifically in the Sada Governorate. It's mainly made up of Zaidi Shias, and its leadership is largely from the Houthi tribe. This group has become a significant player in Yemen's social and political scene due to its religious and tribal connections. Known for both its political and military activities, the Houthi movement has established itself as a notable force in the region over the years. Led by Zaidi religious figure Hussein al-Houthi, the Houthi movement first emerged as an opposition force against Yemen's then-president, Ali Abdullah Saleh. Their primary grievances centered around accusations of corruption against Saleh, coupled with criticism for his perceived alignment with Saudi Arabia and the United States. Hussein contended that Saleh prioritized pleasing the interests of the United States over the welfare of the Yemeni people and the nation's sovereignty. In 2003, the Houthis adopted a distinctive slogan reminiscent of Lebanon's Hezbollah, signaling their opposition: "God is the greatest. Death to America. Death to Israel. Cursed be the Jews. Victory to Islam." The movement's resistance to Saleh's attempt to arrest Hussein resulted in the latter's death, alongside several of his personal guards in Saada in 2004, igniting the Houthi insurgency. With the passing of Hussein, his brother Abdul Malik al-Houthi assumed leadership, a role he has predominantly held, except for a brief interim period. The Houthi movement garners support in Yemen by presenting themselves as champions of economic development, advocating for an end to the political marginalization of Zaidi Shias, and highlighting regional political religious issues through their media outreach. Their approach has created a nuanced relationship with Yemen's Sunni population. While the movement has been known to discriminate against Sunnis, they have also actively recruited and formed alliances with them. The Houthis played a role in the Yemeni Revolution of 2011, participating in street protests and collaborating with other opposition groups. As part of the Gulf Cooperation Council's (GCC)-led Initiative for Peace, they engaged in Yemen's National Dialogue Conference following the period of unrest. However, despite initial involvement, the Houthis later rejected the provisions of the GCC deal in November 2011. They argued that the proposed division of Yemen into 6 federal regions did not bring about fundamental governance reforms and would create economic disparities, dividing the country into wealthy and impoverished regions. The Houthis, apprehensive that this division would weaken their influence, refused to endorse the plan. In late 2014, the Houthis mended ties with Ali Abdullah Saleh, and with his support, they seized control of the capital city and substantial portions of northern Yemen. Since 2015, the Houthis have been engaged in a conflict against the Saudi intervention in Yemen, which aims to establish full territorial control by the internationally recognized government within Yemen. The Islamic State has also targeted all major parties involved in the conflict, including the Houthis, Saleh's forces, the Yemeni government, and the Saudi-led military coalition. The Houthis' objectives extend to governing all of Yemen and supporting external movements against the United States, Israel, and Saudi Arabia. They have carried out multiple missile and drone attacks on various Saudi cities. The ongoing strife in Yemen is widely perceived as part of the broader Iran-Saudi Arabia proxy war. In the aftermath of the 2023 Israel-Hamas war, the Houthis escalated their actions by launching missiles at Israeli cities. These attacks made history as the first instance of space warfare, with Israel actively intercepting Houthi ballistic missiles in outer space. The Houthis have openly declared their intention to persist in attacking Israel until its destruction, marking a significant and concerning development in regional dynamics. The perceived source of the Houthis' power is often attributed to their connection with Iran. Iran has consistently backed the Palestinian state in its stance against Israel, making it plausible that they would extend support to any actions taken against Israel, including those by the Houthis. Despite Iran repeatedly saying they aren't supplying weapons to the Houthis, the evidence strongly suggests otherwise. In reality, Iran has been actively engaged in providing a diverse array of weaponry to the Yemeni militia, encompassing rifles, rocket-propelled grenades, missiles, and various other military equipment. What makes this even more complex is that these supplies are being secretly transported via sea routes. The contradiction between Iran's denials and the tangible proof of their involvement is striking. Independent experts, alongside counterparts from Western nations and the United Nations, have meticulously investigated the origins of components seized from detained vessels. Unsurprisingly, these investigations consistently lead back to Iran. This concrete evidence challenges the narrative of mere rhetoric, indicating a deeper and more tangible connection between Iran and the arming of the Houthis. The covert supply chain raises important questions about the dynamics of external influence in the ongoing conflict in Yemen. Iran might be secretly helping the Houthis with weapons because there's been a UN rule since 2014 that says no one can send weapons to them. Iran might be doing it undercover to get around this rule. In 2019, the Houthis said they launched an attack on Saudi Arabia using cruise missiles and drones. This caused a big problem because it cut Saudi Arabia's oil production in half and made global energy prices go up a lot, the most since the 1991 Gulf War. People started thinking Iran was behind it, even though the Houthis took the credit. Even though the Houthis said they did the Abqaiq attack, the United States, Saudi Arabia, and experts thought Iran was actually behind it. The UN experts also said it was probably not the Houthis. However, Iran denied having any part in it. This disagreement, many believe, shows how it's tough to figure out who's responsible for such issues in that part of the world. Iran has been in the news a lot lately, mostly because of its well-known and unmistakable backing for Hamas. Reports, however, are beginning to surface that indicate Iran may be adopting a more circumspect approach, maybe opting to act covertly or in the background. If this policy change is real, it may suggest that Iran is taking a more measured approach to managing its relationships in the region and its standing in the world. It complicates Iran's position in the larger geopolitical context and calls into question the motivations underlying this possible change. Iran's top leader had a serious talk with the head of Hamas in Tehran back in November, as shared by 3 high-ranking officials. The message was pretty clear. Iran wasn't happy about not being given a heads-up about the October 7th attack on Israel. The supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, made it known that while Iran has always had Hamas's back politically and morally, they won't jump into a war directly on their behalf. In this behind-the-scenes discussion, sources from both Iran and Hamas spill the beans, preferring to stay anonymous to speak freely. This shift in Iran's approach is quite significant. Iran would likely stick to political and moral support and steer clear of direct military involvement. Iran seems to be treading carefully, perhaps trying to balance its ties with Hamas, while avoiding direct entanglement in the conflicts that their regional allies might initiate. In a meeting between Iran's supreme leader and Haniyeh from Hamas, it seems there was a push for restraint. The supreme leader urged Haniyeh to silence internal voices within Hamas that were publicly advocating for Iran and its influential ally Hezbollah to actively join the conflict against Israel. This insight comes from a Hamas official who spoke to Reuters. Despite Reuters attempting to get a response from Hamas before its report's publication, the group remained silent. However, after the report was released, Hamas stated on Telegram, categorically denying the validity of the report and labeling it as baseless. Curiously, the statement did not specify which parts of the report were considered inaccurate. Furthermore, Hamas has not provided additional clarification in response to subsequent inquiries, leaving the details of the disagreement and the exact nature of the conversation between the supreme leader and Haniyeh open to interpretation. Not only Iran, but the United States also seems to be taking a cautious approach with both Hamas and Houthi forces. The U.S. has been relatively reserved, keeping a low profile in these situations. It's evident that the U.S. supports Israel in its stance against Hamas, and this is an undeniable aspect of their foreign policy in the region. Antony Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, has directly told Israel that they need to ensure the safety of Palestinian civilians before restarting any military actions in Gaza. This instruction comes after a week-long truce that allowed talks between Israel and Hamas, resulting in the exchange of prisoners held by Hamas for Palestinians held in Israeli prisons. Blinken made it clear that the U.S. is still committed to supporting Israel's right to defend itself. However, he also increased the pressure on Israel, urging them to follow international laws and take steps to protect civilians, especially if they decide to launch major military operations in southern Gaza. Blinken's message falls in line with how the Biden administration has been talking about the war. At the start, they were all in, fully supporting Israel's response to the attacks by Hamas. However, as more and more Palestinian civilians got hurt, the Biden team changed its tone. They began to express worry about the increasing number of civilians getting caught up in the violence. This shift shows how the administration is trying to find a balance between supporting Israel's safety and recognizing the serious impact on Palestinian civilians. On the other side of the coin, the U.S. is also extending a hand to Palestine. Blinken later met with President Abbas to focus on some key issues. Blinken stressed the need to ramp up humanitarian aid delivery to Gaza, acknowledging the urgency of the dire situation there. He also condemned the attacks carried out by Jewish settlers against Palestinians in the West Bank, highlighting the importance of addressing acts of violence that contribute to escalating tensions in the region. Blinken assured Abbas that he would continue pushing for accountability for those responsible for the actions fueling the ongoing conflict. Furthermore, he reiterated the U.S. commitment to actively working towards tangible steps for the establishment of a Palestinian state. In response, Abbas handed Blinken a detailed file documenting what the Palestinian state news agency called Israeli occupation crimes in Gaza, the West Bank, and Jerusalem. The West Bank has been witnessing daily Israeli army raids since the start of the conflict, causing a significant upheaval in the lives of the residents. The Palestinian Prisoners Society, PPS, reports that more than 3,325 people have been arrested in these widespread operations, showcasing the magnitude of the ongoing military presence and actions. Tragically, the human toll continues to mount, with over 248 Palestinians, including more than 50 children, losing their lives in the occupied West Bank since October 7th. Beyond the loss of lives, the number of injuries has surpassed 2,150, pointing to the severe impact on the well-being of the Palestinian population. In discussions with international representatives, Palestinian President Abbas has stressed the critical issue of forced displacement affecting Palestinians in both Gaza and the West Bank. The surge in attacks from settlers has compounded the challenges faced by the local communities. raising serious concerns about their safety and security. No matter the global play, lives are at stake here. This war needs to end, and it must end now. Thank you for watching our video. Is the war between Israel and Hamas getting out of hand? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember to hit the notification bell for more videos.